First of all, I would like to thank you all for asking those wonderful questions. Todd, if you were in my class, minimum passing level. Okay, I'm just saying. So, I think it's really important that you...
No, Todd, she at least gave you a pass.
Yes. Jesse asked for a C. The compromise would be C minus, or incomplete, but, you know, we could fix this. I do think this is a draft. I would hope that you not vote on this as a facilities plan, because I think there's some things that I'm very concerned about. One of them is the use of the demographics. I think listening to the alderman here today, and also noticing that the difference between the draft and this quote-unquote final plan is that we've shifted from underutilization to overcrowding. What I'm a little concerned about is the 20th day demographics are not going to help you make this plan. What you really are going to have to look at is some of your sister agencies in the city that do this kind of demographic planning. Because if these people are telling you that, you know, they're getting more and more kids in their neighborhoods, that 20th day is not going to give you the kind of information you need to draw the kind of plans you need to do. And I am concerned that the only sister agency I did see in this plan was really CHA. And when we're looking at development in the future, that's mostly private development. It's not going to necessarily be CHA. So I think, you know, there is a lot of stuff missing. But one of the other things I would like to say is that this plan needs to be a little more user-friendly. There's no index. It's kind of hard to find your school. If you don't know the new made-up communities, which I would highly, highly, highly ask that you not utilize, because it makes research very difficult. We do research over a period of time. We need to know that Rogers Park is Rogers Park, not Ravenswood, okay? And that where Wildwood is not really Saguenash. It's in Forest Glen or whatever. But I'm concerned about the changes in the geographic area in the community, and I do live in Oakland, and I'm proud to say I live in Oakland, and that would be gone. So just to make things easier for us to work with and to have information over a period of time, that's something important. Board Member Zopp, I think it's extraordinarily important that you talk about that process of how do we prioritize. That does need to be transparent. That is not clear here. So I understand if you get extra pockets of money that some people get to jump to the front of the line, like I just did and the alder people. And I understand that. But there needs to be a process. It needs to be transparent. And the people of Chicago need to have that kind of input, because that is extraordinarily important. And I'm still not clear, but I do know that if the outside is you know, masonry, roofs, that's always number one. The electrical piece is important, because the electrical mechanical is what's going to support the technology inside the school. So I really think it's important for everybody to understand that. I also wasn't clear about the funding. It's kind of vague, and I guess that's what I felt throughout the entire report, that there was just a general sense of vagueness, and for 10-year plan, and probably that's in the law, it wasn't that specific, but I would say that I'm not sure what faith-based organizations you use, the community forums, how much information, because it seemed like to me that some of the stuff that was said at the underutilization issues was teased out and put in here. So CMAP, please get in touch with them if you haven't. I understand some people at UIC, students got an email, but there was no follow-through to have a forum with them. I don't know if you know about that, but I was really concerned about the student forums and things of that nature, or should I say fora. Facilities do facilitate learning conditions, and I know you all are very aware of that. But I do think I'm concerned that what I see here is what exists now, and I don't see the plan for the future. Make it a little easier for people. An index, a professional indexer will help you get through this, and it'll be very quick and easy for people to find what it is their needs are. So I think that it would really behoove you to wait just a little bit, ask for another extension. I'm sure Springfield will give it to you, to get this right. just to get this right, because I think even though it's a living document, let's not have the first one be at a minimum pass level. Let's have the first one be at least excellent, like maybe a B, so we can work towards getting an A. But I do appreciate, and I do appreciate your questions about how do we get people into King and into Gwendolyn Brooks, because those are selective enrollment schools too. But, you know, of course, we talked around that, and, you know, I'm not allowed to say those things. However, we know why. So thank you very much. It's good to see you all, and welcome, Ms. Quatso. I've not spoken with you yet.
Yeah. Thanks for your feedback.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. President. So our first speaker for public participation will be speaker number 1, please, Catherine Marchese, followed by speaker number 2, Joy Clendenning, then speaker number 14, Valerie Leonard, and then speaker number 18, Valencia Rios Winstead, please.
Hi.
Morning.
Thank you for having me. Rahm Emanuel recently said at Wildwood Elementary, if you put the 3 things together, involve parents, teachers that motivate, and a principal who's not scared to be accountable, wants to be accountable for results, I don't care where that child is, I don't care where they were raised, they will succeed. My children's school, Belding Elementary, a level 1 school, has all these qualities and much more. Belding administration, the teachers, and the parents do not mismanage our school. In fact, we work very hard to continue to make sure Belding is a success for the students. My question to each of you is, why are you turning your backs on us? Why are you failing us? Our school has all the key components for the type of success that the mayor has talked about. Why does the board and the CPS executives continue to shut the doors and prevent opportunities from reaching Belding students and faculty? Why does the board continue to slash our budget to a point where it becomes impossible to function, no matter how much time, effort, and work we put into our school? Why does the board continue to disrespect, destroy, and mismanage the funds and reduce our budget year after year? We have done everything right, according to the mayor. It's not just about money. It's about opportunity, integrity, and hard work. Currently, 80% of our students are meeting and exceeding state standards. And we were at 74%. That came from low-income households, but recently that changed. We're at 47%. And it seems to all of us here at Belding that you're turning your backs on our neighborhood public schools to fund charters. Belding has lost our art teacher, several grade school instructors, special needs aides. We have 1 bilingual teacher for 160 students.
Ms. Marchese, excuse me, can you please conclude?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
And we lost our whole after-school program. On that note, Belding is extending an invitation to each of our board members to spend a day in October of this year with our administration, staff, students, and volunteer parents. I leave you with this one question. How can you make cuts when you haven't even bothered to get to know our school and the value within each of our students at Belding? We look forward to seeing you in October. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marchese. Our next speaker, please, speaker number 2, Joy Clendenning.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Well, so the Educational Facilities Master Plan, I have 4 children in Chicago Public Schools. I've been a parent here for almost 13 years. I've served on the PTA, the LSC, and I have to say I was totally delighted a year ago to learn of this 2011 law and the idea that, you know, we were going to have to do a powerful, robust, comprehensive plan to guide decisions for the next 10 years. Unfortunately, what I've observed over the past year is just a huge missed opportunity, which actually people have commented on today, and I truly appreciate that, both the comments of board members and the comments of Ms. Lewis. The law requires CPS to work with stakeholders, parents, teachers, principals, and community members in the development of the plan. The vast majority of these stakeholders are still unclear about what this plan even is. I asked at every single LSC meeting last year, what was the update on the Educational Facilities Master Plan, and no one even knew what it was, let alone were we looking at it together as an LSC. There was an opportunity to do intensive work on the ground with LSCs, PACs, other parents, community organizations who have tons of experience in this, principals and teachers. Oh, and I always want to remember to thank teachers. Thank you, teachers. You're wonderful. And to have found out real and accurate information about facilities and educational programming at each and every school and how it should fit together in each and every community. Instead, I really felt this process was manipulated, and even when groups did figure out what this plan was and we gave concrete feedback and input, it was often disregarded. The final plan, was just released to us, I think, on Monday afternoon, so I haven't read the whole thing, and I do see the change. I'm glad we're working on it.
Ms. Clendenning, excuse me, can you please conclude?
Sure.
Thank you.
I do think the current plan is filled with a lot of empty rhetoric, and we need to work on this stuff. We really look forward to trying to dig down deep and work more deeply on these things. So I'll conclude. The space utilization formula is still in that plan. That's a problem. The class size issue. I appreciate the questions about policy and finances. Please respect all of your stakeholders. Give them the hard choices to work with. We're ready to make these hard choices, but we need to do it very specifically at schools and in communities. Thank you very
Ms.
much for your
Clendenning.
time.
Our next speaker, please, speaker number 14, Valerie Leonard.
Hi, I have comments on the plan. First of all, it reads more like an excuse for closing 50 schools than being a forward-thinking document. There's no vision, and the plan for North Lawndale shows the extremely low expectations you have for our children. The best you have for us is all-day kindergarten, AP English. Really? This plan does not begin to make up for the fact that you closed 50 schools in mostly African-American neighborhoods, cut neighborhood school budgets by $260 million while raising charter budgets by $80 million. You said closing schools would save money, but in fact you've spent an extra $363 million in capital funds to cover the cost of closings and associated programs. Adding insult to injury, you cut funding to over 100 pre-K programs across the city, including over 40 on the west side. Some of our facilities have had to close their doors. Not only have you further destabilized our communities, you're trying to kill off our children in their infancy. You signed on to the Gates Foundation District Charter Compact, which requires that you give charters equal funding, close 25% of public schools, and prioritize turning over those schools to charters. This in exchange for the opportunity, not a guarantee, but the opportunity to compete for up to $27 million. To date, Gates only gave you $100,000. $100,000, you mean to tell me you're gonna disrupt communities across this city for $100,000? Who's minding the store? Clearly, you're not making decisions in the best interests of our children.
Ms.
Thank
Leonard,
you.
thank you. Last call for Valencia Rios. Moving on to the next group, our next speaker will be speaker number 3, Michelle Villegas, followed by speaker number 9, Carolyn Vickery, please.
Good morning, President Vitale and members of the Chicago Board of Education. My name is Michelle Hoppy Villegas, and I am the proud parent of 2 CPS students, both of whom graduated from Abraham Lincoln Elementary School and attended Walter Payton College Prep. One graduated last year. I am a former Lincoln Elementary School PTA officer and LSC member. I am here on behalf of a large group of parents and community members in Lincoln Park who believe fervently in equity in education and the wise and just use of scarce educational resources. I come before you today concerned about the grave public policy error we fear is about to occur. Earlier this summer, it appeared rational minds would prevail and the unnecessary $50 million middle school on the Children's Memorial Hospital site, which Lincoln Elementary School demanded last October, would not be funded. Due to the $1 billion CPS deficit, massive school closures, primarily in minority neighborhoods in Chicago, and drastic slashing of CPS school budgets this year. The recent release of the draft CPS 10-year Educational Facilities Master Plan, which indicated that no school in Lincoln's position would receive a new facility without utilizing other, far less expensive solutions, should have been the end to this unbelievably bad idea. If CPS guidelines were applied fairly, Lincoln would not receive a middle school until many other more pressing problems were fixed in CPS. This is because, though overcrowded, Lincoln is only at 124% capacity, only 4 points above what CPS considers the upper end of efficient.
Ms. Villegas, excuse me, can you please conclude?
Oh my God. Okay. When some schools are over 200% capacity, and does not sit in a cluster of overcrowded schools, but sits in a sea of 2,500 excess seats, all the schools around it have seats available, all of them. It is bounded by several underutilized level 1 elementary schools, and within and adjacent to this district are 3 level 1 magnet schools. However, it appears that Mayor Emanuel, Alderman Smith, and the developer at CMH have struck a deal, and this is to be funded with state funds.
Ms. Villegas,
I
thank you.
ask the board, do you support the funding of expanding Lincoln Elementary School, the 51st most crowded school, jumping over 50 other more overcrowded schools in far more dire circumstances? And if so, what is your justification?
Thank you, Ms. Vegas.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please. Carolyn Vickery.
Hi, yes, good morning. My name is Caroline Vickery. I am a former parent at Lincoln School. I was a 5-term member of the LSC, and despite what the alderman might tell you, there's not overwhelming support for the school at Lincoln. I was the highest vote getter in the last election of the LSC. So I speak for all the people that elected me to the local school council the last time around, although I'm no longer there. I feel compelled to speak to refute the notion that we support this $50 million middle school. We do not. We are confounded that CPS would spend $50 million on a controversial and ill-conceived school crammed into a commercial development without a playground. And even worse, in underpopulated Lincoln Park, where population is basically flat when so many other areas of the city are in such desperate need. To repeat, Lincoln is 50th down the list of overcrowded schools in CPS. In Lincoln Park, we are home to the city's highest performing elementary schools. We host 4 elite magnet schools right in our backyard. And our neighborhood schools are thriving examples of success. We are awash with excellent academic opportunities for our children right here in our neighborhood. Not everyone in the city is so lucky. Many cities crisscross the city, driving for hours every day, transporting their young children to distant magnet schools to avoid their neighborhood schools. Many of these neighborhood schools have had detached trailers on their properties for years and years, no air conditioning, inadequate lunchrooms, and deserve funding. But the ironies and stark contrasts among schools is what makes people so frustrated and cynical, as I'm sure you know. But we know that Lincoln does not in any way make the list in the master plan. If Lincoln ends up getting funded, it's clear that the master facilities plan is being tossed aside for the privileged and politically connected few.
Ms. Vickery, excuse me. Ms. Vickery,
this
can
is
you
what I'm
please
afraid of.
conclude?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing today and what I heard from you earlier, I appreciate and I understand, but I think the process of the state giving money and having it be connected to specific projects has got to end. There has to be transparency before that sort of decision is sprung on our neighborhood, because it's going to change our neighborhood for decades.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker then, Mr. President, is from the Lincoln Elementary community. Speaker number 5, Benjamin Kaddish, followed by speaker number 21, please, Joanne DeSanctis, and then speaker number 26, Pavdeep Sethi, and 29, Thaddeus Wang.
Today is a beautiful day outside, and we need to listen to logic and common sense. Thank you for letting me speak in front of President Vitale and board members. My name is Ben Kadish, and I live at 2429 Burling Street and have lived there for 25 years. It is a 5-minute walk from Lincoln School, and our property was redistricted out of Lincoln School sometime over the past 15 years. We live 12 houses north of Fullerton, which is the north border of the Lincoln School District, which runs south all the way to North Avenue. And in our location, we would not even be able to attend the school. We have been made aware that CPS is close to approving a $30 to $50 million expansion to create a megaplex 2-building campus with a caged-in playground on the roof based on overestimated overcrowding figures, and the alderman is justifying a zoning change on these figures to allow a private developer to build a massive project 1 block from Lincoln School. The neighbors do not support any zoning change that will increase the height and density on the property at Lincoln, Fullerton, and Orchard. The alderman is trying to justify upzoning this site and is using the fabricated overcrowding issue at Lincoln School to justify the development which the neighborhood does not support. We understand that Lincoln School is approximately 51st most crowded school within CPS. CPS can save $50 million and use that at other locations in the city as the adjacent high-performing neighborhood schools have excess capacity, are within the district or in very close proximity. Alcott, Oscar Mayer all have capacity within the schools, each with more than 200 open seats. There is no logical reason to spend $50 million to create a 2-school solution when CPS states that their preference is a K-8 small school environment.
Mr. Kadish, excuse me, can you please conclude?
CPS should not be involving neighborhood schools into any zoning issues, as they just closed 49 schools, possibly with more in the future. The parents that live closest and neighbors that live closest to the school and around the development site do not want the expansion and do not want this project railroaded through. There have been no public meetings outside a small school population on this matter to get neighbor input whatsoever. A small group of parents, all of which stood behind the alderman today, all live at the farthest points from the site and are pushing this so they do not get redistricted out.
Thank you, Mr. Kadish. Our next speaker, please. Last call for Joanne DeSanctis. Next speaker, please. Speaker 26, Pavdi Sethi.
Oh, I was right there. He was holding me back. My name's Joanne DeSanctis. I'm a
Thank you.
former, thank you. I'm a former Lincoln Elementary parent. I am no longer a CPS parent, and I don't support a middle school being built there, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. While I was at Lincoln, a lot of options were explored, and it occurred to me that the near north side has far more educational choices and magnet and selective enrollment seats than many other communities in the city. Many more than the northwest side and many more than the southeast side, which would use those seats to be able to ease overcrowding. If money's going to be spent and a new school is put into Lincoln that supposedly is going to offer choice to many more people in the city, wouldn't it make sense to spread those choice seats around, move them up to the north side, move them down to the southeast side? We're limiting people, and choice is great in education, but it's not great if it doesn't come with access. And people on the far northwest side do not have nearly as much access to some of these selective enrollment and magnet seats as others do. And the other thing is, I've seen so many creative ideas go out the window. If you want to make a magnet school, okay, maybe don't close LaSalle and move it, but maybe take somebody from LaSalle and put them in an empty school like Trumbull and create another world language magnet program. Create something that then you could co-locate a school for English language learners. The schools in the northwest side and the Edgewater area, some of them have 20 to 30 distinct languages represented in their enrollment. And it's a huge burden to educate English language learners on that. So I guess what I'm just coming to say is, while I don't support that particular school, I support education and choice. I think I'm a concerned taxpayer. I think all of you, if you just could listen to the advocacy and then take your key staff, get in a room for about a day with a bunch of flip charts, you'd actually be able to divide this baby fairly and come out with a kind of solution that would at least be the best you could possibly do with the limited funds that you have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please. Speaker 18, Pavdeep Sethi.
Members of the board, thank you. I came here with a prepared speech to talk about the expansion at Lincoln Elementary, which I'm promptly abandoning in light of what I've heard today. What's moved me today, listening to some of the earlier aldermen, has been the plight of the southern, western, northwestern wards, and the contrast to that which Lincoln is holding out as its plight. I'm sorry, but I don't think your job is to make Lincoln achieve a bigger band room for its band members. I think your job is to get the southern, the northwestern wards to the level of education currently being enjoyed in Lincoln Elementary. I think it's time to remove the bias of educational resources that we see. I want to leave you with this one thought. I live a block away from the school. I went to an LSC meeting last year, just really out of curiosity. I don't really have a particular axe. I don't have children in the school. I listened to the statistical projections. I have a grad degree in math from UChicago. I was curious. I was stunned at the lack of robustness in the studies that were being used to project the population growth. I was not surprised to see that those population misses were enormous in this past year, that the population of the school actually went down, and that it's been the same for 2 years. So this overcrowding issue at Lincoln, people have thrown out numbers, it's 51 out of 58, et cetera. It doesn't seem to be a real issue. I would invite you to go and take a look, and then walk to Alcott School, which is this morning when I was walking my dog, 5 minutes away. Okay, that's empty, relatively speaking, and it's empty when you put it in comparison to what the schools look like on the south side and what they look like on the northwest side.
Mr. Sethi, excuse me, can you please conclude?
I think I'm concluding. Thanks very much.
Thank you. As Mr. Wong approaches the microphone, then our next speaker will be speaker number 4, please, Jatan Bird, followed by speaker number 6, Mary Kunat, and then speaker number 7, Queen's Sister.
Thank you. My name is Thaddeus Wong. I have 4 children at Lincoln Elementary, grades 5, 4, 2nd, and kindergarten. I was raised in Minneapolis public school system by a single-parent working mom, and I walked to school by myself when I was 5, from a very small home. I now have one of the bigger homes in Lincoln Park, and I walk my 4 children every day to Lincoln Park Elementary School. I am one of the very few that are privileged. I give you that perspective so you can understand why my thoughts are the way they are when we talk about spending tens of millions of dollars in my school's neighborhood. I want to remind you 2 things. What we've been talked about, that Lincoln Park Elementary is nowhere close to being as overcrowded as the other schools in the city of Chicago. And I want to remind you that CPS came to us a year ago with some very thoughtful, inexpensive solutions to our overcrowding issue, and they were met with some very entitled parents that felt that their little children needed to have more than the other children of Chicago. I fundamentally disagree with this. The solutions that were offered to us by CPS that were thoughtful and logical should have been applied, and we would not be here today. There's 2 stories I want to share with you, because after that LSC meeting, when I saw my fellow parents insist on tens of millions of dollars for a school, I hid in the corner out of embarrassment. About a month ago, I was at Starbucks. I was working. I ran in to get a coffee. Stay-at-home mom in her tennis outfit was there. She came up running up to me and said, "Thad, we've got the money." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Thad, we've got the money." She said, "Springfield gave Chicago the money, and they're giving us the money for a school." And I looked at her and I said, "Taking it away from who?" And she looked at me like really strange, and she said, "What?" And I said, "Who are we taking the money from?" She said, No, they're giving it to us." And I said, "But if they're giving the money to us, they're taking it from someone who needs it more." And she looked at me and walked away. 2 weeks ago, my wife was at a DNC women's event.
Mr. Wong?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse
Alderman
me.
Smith came up to her and said, my wife asked, "What's going on with the school?" And Alderman Smith's eyes widened, and she said, "We've got the money. We'll make an announcement soon." My wife said, "That's tragic." Alderman Smith mumbled something and walked away. The point is that East Lincoln Park does not need $40 million for a school. The majority of the elementary schools in our neighborhood are underutilized. You've closed down 50 schools that you are currently paying for. I run a business with 1,300 employees. I have a number of facilities in Chicago. I understand facility management. The last thing you would do is maintain Trumbull, for instance, a very high-quality physical space in Andersonville.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
build a
Wong.
new school. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker then, please, last call for Jatan Bird, speaker number 4,